Naina Lal Kidwai, President of FICCI and country head at HSBC India, joins in on business tonight this evening. Naina, first up, let's talk about what has been done. How much of a spoiler has the recent RBI intervention really been? You know, the street has virtually ruled out any rate cut this fiscal with the central bank's measures to control a depreciating rupee. What's your sense?
A lot will depend on how long this LAF ceiling remains, because the effect it does have in the longer term, or if it stays for too long, is by squeezing liquidity out of the system, it forces interest rates up. But right now, that is not the immediate effect. The concern clearly is that interest rates not come down anymore. In fact, we fear at FICCI that given this move, there's a danger that interest rates go up, and that would be really bad. And what we really do need is not just the RBI policy rates, but for banks to be able to translate it into lower interest rates to companies, because what companies want to do is to borrow at lower rates. So interest rates are one feature, but believe me, they're not the only feature that is needed to kickstart investment. We need the entire environment to be more enabling. We need the power projects which are stuck to come back so that there's power readily available. We need approvals at the state level, as in some states do have single window clearance mechanisms, but not all states do, so that industry finds the environment more enticing. And yes, interest rates is one of those features.
Well, since we are talking about interest rates, there's a lot of talk about a possible CRR hike later this month when the RBI does meet. Do you believe a weak rupee has virtually left the RBI with just no other option?
I'm sure RBI is looking at the way the rupee is moving. That is what is driving this right now. That the policies that they will look at, which is really to squeeze liquidity, CRR would clearly be a mechanism. But hopefully that is not something that they have to fall to, because the rupee's fall has stemmed. We have seen the equity markets go up, which is also a positive, because it means that FII flows continue to come into India. And the fact that the government has up its sleeve the prospect of an NRI, rupee bond type of issue is also an important weapon which the government could use. So CRR need not be the only method that is there in the arsenal that RBI and government look at. And we can only hope that the rupee continues to be stable and not deteriorate. Of course, a rupee that has become softer as ours has does help exports. So if we should actually be also looking at how we can capitalize on that advantage, which is really to ensure that the exporters are able to avail of this advantage. And the IT services sector clearly is already on its feet and hopefully benefits from it. There are some concerns that contracts get renegotiated and so on. But in the long run, the rupee, to the extent that it is favorable for exports, should be capitalized on. And on the other, we have to ensure that there is no further deterioration.
Naina, what is all this going to do to our growth projections? And the last few weeks, we've seen a slew of brokerages downgrade our GDP for FY14. A lot of economists have turned very negative on growth prospects for this fiscal. What's your sense? Are we staring at a really tough FY14? Could we be looking at sub 6% growth?
From FICCI's perspective, we have been pushing very hard to get GST off the ground, because all analysis suggests that it adds 2% to the GDP of the economy. There's absolutely no reason why GST should not come through. It's needed at a national level. It's needed by industry, and industry which actually will end up in some cases paying more than it pays is supporting GST. So this is one agenda which should not fall foul of the political nature of the dialogue and really see fruition, because it will benefit India for years to come. It will benefit whichever political party scores in the elections that we go forward to next year. Another area which is one which does not require reform, which does not require any major change, is to get these projects which CCI is indeed clearing off the ground. So we need to get them cleared and indeed move ahead to being reactivated so that the loans that are stuck begin to get unstuck and the projects actually move forward. And FICCI's analysis suggests that that would add 1% to the GDP of the country. That requires no big buck reform. It is just approvals which were given, now stuck, being enabled and allowed to move ahead. So again, things that we can do very easily and get our GDP growth back up.